Give me the next half hour, and I will take your excuses away from you. Not soften them. Not talk you out of them for one evening. Take them, the way a man takes a tool out of the hand of someone who has been using it wrongly, and does not hand it back. I am aware of how that sounds. You have heard large promises before, and you have learned, sensibly, to discount them. Discount this one as well. I am not going to argue with you, and I am not going to encourage you. I am going to lay a file on the table and let you read it for yourself. Here is what is in the file. The work that produced it ran 20 years, and in the course of it, several thousand men and women were taken apart and set down on paper. 98 out of every 100 of them were failures by any honest reckoning. Out of all that labor came a list, and the list is short. There are 30 reasons why a man fails. 30 is not the number that will do the work on you tonight. There is a second number in that file, and it is the one that ends the argument. I will keep it a while. The file I kept on failure, and what was in it. You would expect such a list to be long. Failure feels various. Every man who has come to nothing has come to nothing in what he believes is his own particular way, by his own particular bad luck, in his own unrepeatable circumstances, and he will tell you so at length if you give him the evening. He is wrong, and the file says he is wrong. Set several thousand ruined ambitions side by side, and the variety goes out of them. What is left is 30 causes, and most men are carrying 2 or 3. Not 30. 2 or 3, worked steadily, year after year, with great patience. I shall give you the shape of the list before I open it. Some of the 30 are matters of habit. Some are matters of temper. Some are matters of what a man does with money when he has it. And some are matters of what he does with an afternoon. One is a matter of what he was handed at birth. The rest, every one of them, are matters of what he has done since. Now here is the part of the list that most men never notice, and it is at the very bottom of the page. After the 30th cause there is a 31st, and the 31st is blank. It is a line left open, and the instruction beside it is plain. Write in here any cause of your own failure that is not already on this list. That blank line is the most quietly devastating thing on the page. Because a man will read the 30, and he will feel the list closing on him, and he will reach for the blank line as a drowning man reaches for a rope. He will begin to compose his own entry. My case is different. My case involves a particular circumstance that this list does not anticipate. And then he sits with the pen, and nothing comes. I have known that line to stay blank in the hands of men who could talk for 2 hours about why their situation was exceptional. Given the invitation to put it in writing, in one sentence, as a cause, they find it is already covered. It was on the list. It was number 16, or number 8, or number 25, and it had a plain name, and it was ordinary. Your excuse is not rare. That is not an insult. It is a piece of good news, and I will show you why before the half hour is out. A rare affliction has no known remedy. A common one has 30 years of records. The one cause on the list that is not yours. I shall deal first with the only cause on the file that lets a man off, because if I leave it to the end, you will spend the whole half hour wondering whether it is you. Number 1 on the list is what a man is handed at birth. His inheritance, the equipment he arrived with and did not choose and cannot exchange. It stands at the head of the 30, and it carries a note beside it that appears beside none of the other 29. This is the one cause on this list which cannot easily be corrected by the man himself. There it is, the honest exemption. I set it down plainly, and I do not take it back. Now hear what the same file says next, because it does not stop there. Even against that one cause it names a bridge, and the bridge is other men. A mind that is short of something may borrow. 2 minds working in genuine harmony toward a definite end produce a third thing that neither of them owns alone, and a man who is short in himself may be made whole in an alliance. The mastermind is the name it goes by. It is the only remedy offered for cause number 1, and it is offered. Let me tell you what I saw of a verdict handed down at birth. A son of mine came into the world without the physical equipment for hearing. The men who examined him were not unkind, and they were not uncertain. He would be deaf, and being deaf he would be mute, and that was the whole of it. It was not a prediction. It was presented as a fact already settled. in the way such things are presented. I did not accept it. I want to be exact about what that means, because it is easily made into something foolish. I did not believe I could grow ears on a child by wishing. I refused the second half of the verdict, the part that ran forward into his life and closed it. Nature could send me a son without ears. Nature could not compel me to accept him as a mute. So the work began, and it went on for years, and it was ordinary work. Sound reaching him by the bone rather than the ear. Talk, endlessly, close against the side of his head. A refusal, held daily for a very long time, to speak of him, or to him, as a boy who could not. He heard, not wholly, and never wholly, and I will not tell you it was a wonder. I will tell you only what a father did and what a father saw, which is that a child pronounced deaf and mute grew up hearing and speaking, and that the hearing came in slowly, over years, in the direction of the work. I raise it here for one reason. Cause number one is the only excuse on the file that the file itself allows you, and even there, against the one handicap a man does not choose, the record shows a way through it that begins with refusing the sentence rather than the fact. 29 remain. Not one of them was handed to you. The man who had no schooling whatever. Now we come to the excuses proper, and I shall take them in the order in which men reach for them. The first is schooling. I never had the education for it. The others were trained and I was not. It is spoken with a particular flatness, as a thing beyond argument, and it stands on the file at number 4. Read what stands beside it. Insufficient education is called a handicap that may be overcome with comparative ease. Comparative ease. Of the 30, this one is singled out as among the least troublesome to get around, and the reason follows. The best educated men are very often those known as self-made. Consider what an education is. A man is not educated because a school has certified him. He is educated when he has learned how to get what he wants in life without violating the rights of other men. That is the whole of the qualification. Knowledge is not education. Knowledge that is applied, and applied persistently, is education. And men are paid not for what they know, but for what they do with what they know. Take two brothers who kept a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, from the year 1892. Neither of them held a diploma from a high school. One missed his commencement because the family moved. The other spent his final year on subjects of his own choosing rather than the ordinary course, and left without the paper. Neither ever attended a college. Neither had 1 hour of formal training in physics or in engineering, and what they proposed to do was to put a man into the air, which the trained men of that day had been failing to do for a century. They read. They read what was in their father's library and what they could obtain by writing for it, and they taught themselves the mechanics of flight out of books and out of the wind. The bicycle trade paid for the work. In December of 1903, the thing flew. Or take a man from Massachusetts who had little more than a high school education and who developed a potato. He sold 60 bushels of it to a seed merchant at Marblehead for $150. That was the capital. With it, he went to California, and he reached Santa Rosa on the last day of October in 1875, a frontier town with a climate he wanted, and there he laid out a nursery and the experimental grounds that made his name known wherever plants are grown. $150 and a high school education. I do not say the schools are worthless. I say that the men who most loudly regret not having gone are almost never the men who are doing anything with what they already have. Bring me the man who has applied to the floor everything he knows, and I will grant him his complaint. I have not often had to grant it. The preacher who had not $1 of the million. The second excuse is money, and it stands at number 30 on the file, lack of capital. It is the most respectable of all the excuses because it is so often true. A man does begin without money. He does lack the reserve to absorb his own mistakes while he builds a name. The file does not pretend otherwise, and neither shall I. But watch what happens when a man wants a thing and does not have the money, and does not treat the absence of the money as the end of the sentence. There was a young clergyman in the Stockyards district of South Chicago who had gone through college with a grievance. He thought the schools were teaching young men and women to recite rather than to do, and he believed he knew how to correct it, and he wanted a college of his own in which to correct it. He wanted $1,000,000. He did not have $1,000,000, nor any prospect of one, nor any acquaintance who had one. He carried the want with him for nearly 2 years. He took it to bed with him and got up with it. And for nearly 2 years, by his own reckoning afterwards, he did nothing whatever but think about it. Then one Saturday afternoon, sitting in his room, he stopped thinking and decided. Not decided to try. Decided to have the $1,000,000 within 1 week, without the faintest notion of where it would come from. He said that the moment he fixed the time, something in him settled, and a question came to him that he could not answer. Why did you not decide this 2 years ago? He sent word to the newspapers that he would preach the next morning on what he would do if he had $1,000,000. He wrote the sermon that afternoon, and it came easily, because in truth he had been writing it for 2 years. In the morning, he left the pages behind him in his room, and did not discover it until he was standing in the pulpit, and so he shut his eyes and said the thing he had been carrying, without notes. When he sat down, a man came up from 3 rows behind the back and put out his hand and said that he believed him, and that if he would call at the office the following morning, the money was his. The man was Philip Armour, of the packing houses. The money was given. In 1890, that sermon was preached, and out of it came the Armour Institute of Technology, which opened its doors in 1893, with the young preacher as its first president, and he held that post for 27 years. Now I shall be honest with you about the record, because the story is told carelessly by people who like it too much. The money did not arrive in a bag the next morning with no conditions on it. Armour attached 5 years of the man's life, given to running the thing. And a college is not built in a week. 3 years passed between the sermon and the opening. Hold the anecdote lightly and hold the mechanism tightly, because the mechanism is what you came for. He wanted the thing for 2 years and got nowhere. He fixed a date and acted inside the week. What changed was not his circumstances, and not his bank, and not his acquaintance. What changed was that a want became a decision with a date on it, and the want had been ready the whole time. You do not lack the capital, you lack the date. The time will never be just right. The third excuse is the most popular one in the world, and it is number 8 on the file, and its name is procrastination. It never sounds like an excuse. That is its whole art. It sounds like judgment. It sounds like a man being sensible about his timing, waiting until the conditions improve, until the season turns, until he is a little further on, until he knows a little more, until the thing settles down. Old man procrastination stands in the shadow of every human being alive, waiting for his chance to spoil something. Most men go through their whole lives as failures for one reason. They are waiting for the time to be right before they begin anything worth doing. And the time will never be right. Not once, not for anybody, not for you. There has never in the history of the world been a morning on which all the conditions were correct. So start where you are standing. Work with whatever tools you have got in your hand at this moment, poor as they are, and better tools will be found on the way. That is not encouragement. That is the observed procedure of every man I have examined who got anywhere. Beside procrastination on the file, at number 16, stands its respectable cousin, and this one deserves a hard look, because most careful men are carrying it, and none of them know it. Overcaution. The man who takes no chances generally has to take whatever is left when the others have finished choosing. Read that again slowly, because it is the most exact sentence on the whole list. He does not avoid the risk. He is not permitted to avoid the risk. He merely arrives after the choosing is over and accepts the remainder, and because the remainder was handed to him rather than chosen by him, he does not count it as a decision at all. He counts it as his circumstances. Overcaution is as bad as undercaution. Both are extremes, and both are paid for. Life is filled through and through with the element of chance, and no arrangement of your affairs will remove it. You may choose early with imperfect knowledge, or you may choose late from what is left. There is no third door, and indecision and procrastination are brothers. Where you find the one, you will find the other, standing just behind him. Kill the pair of them off before they have you tied to the treadmill for good. What a razor sold in its first year. The fourth excuse is the one a man reaches for after he has already tried, and it is the hardest of them all to take away, because he has evidence. I did make the attempt. It came to nothing. That is not an excuse. That is a result. It is number 9 on the file, lack of persistence. Most men are excellent starters and poor finishers, and most give up at the first sign that the thing is not going to be easy. Let me give you a set of figures. In 1895, a man was honing a straight razor and formed an idea. A thin blade of steel, sharpened on both edges, held between 2 plates on a handle and thrown away when it grew dull, rather than sharpened again. The idea took about 1 minute. He had no knowledge of metals whatever. It took 6 years to find anyone who could make the blade. 6 years. Steel could not then be worked thin enough and hard enough at a price a man would pay, and the trained metallurgists told him so, and they were not being obstructive. They were telling him the state of their art. It was not until he found the right partner in the matter that the thing could be produced at all. The company made its first sale in the year 1903. Here is that first year. 51 razors, 168 blades. I want you to sit with those 2 numbers for a moment, because they are the whole lesson, and they are very small numbers. 8 years from the idea, 6 of them spent being told it could not be manufactured, and at the end of all of it, in the first year of trading, 51 razors. Any sensible man looking at that ledger closes the business. The evidence is complete. The market has spoken. He has his result, and it is a clear one, and he may now say for the rest of his life that he tried it, and it did not work, and every man who hears him will nod. By the end of the following year, the same concern had produced 90,000 razors and 12,400,000 blades. 1 year apart. 51, and then 90,000. Now I will tell you what that means, and what it does not mean. It does not mean that every failing venture is 1 year from 12 million. It means that a result is not a verdict, and that a man who quits at the 51 has not learned that his idea was wrong. He has learned nothing at all. He has simply stopped, and stopping is not information. Failure cannot cope with persistence. It is not a contest of strength. It is a contest of duration, and old man failure grows tired and takes his leave of the man who will not. The excuse that wishes it had been born elsewhere. The fifth excuse does not look at the present at all. It looks backward, and it is the one that men hold longest and confess least. If I had been born into it, if my people had been different, if there had been money behind me, or a name, or a house where such things were talked about at the table. 2 of the 30 causes touch this, and they say opposite things, and a man who wants his excuse will read one and not the other. Number 7 allows it, and I allow it with the file. Unfavorable surroundings in childhood are real, and they mark a man, and the twig that is bent grows into a bent tree, and a great deal of what a grown man calls his nature was installed in him before he had any say in it. I do not sneer at that. Nobody who has looked at enough lives sneers at that. But now read number 26, and it is the one that nobody quotes. Possession of power that was not acquired by a man's own effort. The sons and daughters of wealthy men. Those who come into money they did not earn. It is on the list of causes of failure. On the list, not as a caution, not as a footnote, but as one of the 30 reasons a life comes to nothing, and the sentence beside it is this: quick riches are more dangerous than poverty. Turn that over. The condition you have spent years wishing had been yours is itself on the file. The head start you believe you were denied has ruined more men than the lack of it ever did, and it ruins them in a way that is very hard to reverse, because power that arrives in the hands of a man who did not build it gradually has nothing under it. He never assembled the habits. He was given the result without the process, and when the result is spent, the process is not there to make another. I am not telling you that poverty is a blessing. It is not, and anybody who tells you so has an easy life. I am telling you that the file, compiled without sentiment from several thousand ruined ambitions, lists inherited advantage among the causes of ruin, and lists it with a hard sentence attached. So the thing you have been mourning is a 2-edged article, and you have only ever counted one of the edges. That is the trouble with a grievance held for a long time. It stops being examined. It gets carried. the fault that costs more positions than all others. The sixth excuse is other people. They are difficult, they do not see it. I was passed over. He was promoted because he is liked and I am not liked, and I will not play at being liked. I shall be blunt here, because this is the place on the file where the numbers are least kind. Number 25 is the inability to work with other men, and the sentence beside it is the strongest claim on the whole list. More men lose their positions and their large opportunities in life through this one fault than through all the other reasons put together. All of them put together, not the largest of 30, larger than the other 29 combined. Beside it, at number 10, stands the negative personality, and the point there is not manners, it is arithmetic. Nothing of any size is done by one man. Power is built out of the cooperation of other men, and a man who repels people cannot assemble it. He may be right about everything, and he will still have nothing to work with, because the cooperation of other men is not owed to correctness. It is given, and it is given to men it is pleasant to be near. And at number 23 there is intolerance, and I will give you the definition the file gives, because it is not the one you expect. Intolerance means a man has stopped acquiring knowledge. That is all it means. Not that he is cruel, or that he is coarse, that he has closed the account. He has reached his conclusions on a subject, and no further evidence will be admitted, and from that day forward on that subject he learns nothing, and the world goes on adding facts without him. Every man with a closed mind believes his mind is closed because the matter is settled. It is settled because his mind is closed. You will notice that these three are the causes a man is least willing to hear, and that is exactly why they cost more than the other 27. A man will accept that he lacks capital. He will accept that he delayed. He will not accept that he is hard to work with, and so he goes on being hard to work with, and calls the consequence the world. The enemy you will meet in front of a mirror. The seventh excuse is scattering, and it wears the mask of virtue. I am doing a great deal. I have several irons in the fire. I am busy from morning until night, and it is not for want of effort that nothing has come of it. Number 20 on the file, lack of concentration of effort. The jack of all trades is seldom good at any of them. Effort spread across 6 aims produces 6 beginnings, and no arrival, and the man is genuinely tired at the end of it, and his tiredness convinces him that he has been working. He has been moving. Those are different. Under it stands number 5, and number 5 is the hinge of the whole list. Lack of self-discipline. Discipline comes out of self-control, and self-control means the governing of every negative quality a man has. Before you can control conditions, you must control yourself, and self-mastery is the hardest work you will ever undertake. If you do not conquer yourself, you will be conquered by yourself. And here is the sentence I would keep out of the whole 30 if I were allowed to keep one. You may see your best friend and your worst enemy at one and the same moment, by stepping in front of a mirror. I ask you to take that literally tonight, not as a fine phrase. Go and stand in front of the glass and understand that both of them are in there, that they are the same size, that they have identical faces, and that one of them has been winning for some years now on points. Everything else on the file is an event or a habit. This one is a standing arrangement, and it is worth seeing that the man in the mirror is not your obstacle, because an obstacle is a thing you go around. He is the only party to the arrangement who can change it. The money that leaves as fast as it arrives. The eighth excuse is the one made by men who do earn. I am not badly paid. It simply never comes to anything. It goes. There is never any left, and so there is never any question of building. Number 21 on the file is the habit of spending without discrimination, and the reason it appears among the causes of failure is not thrift, and it is not morality. It is bargaining position. Follow it carefully, because it is the least sentimental thing on the list. A man with money set aside can decline. He can refuse a poor arrangement, wait a month, say no to an employer, walk away from a bad partner, take the offer that is worth taking rather than the offer that arrived first. Money in the bank is not comfort. It is courage, purchased in advance, and it is the only kind of courage a man can buy. A man with nothing set aside must take what he is offered and be glad of it. He does not merely have less. He has less choice, and having less choice he accepts arrangements that keep him poor, and the arrangements keep him poor so that he continues to have no choice. It is a closed circle, and it turns quietly for 30 years. And there is the further thing, which is that the man who spends everything is very often spending against a fear. He stands in a permanent dread of poverty, and one of the ways that dread expresses itself is a refusal to look at the figures at all, because looking is unpleasant. So he does not know what he earns in a year. He does not know what he keeps. He has never written it down. The remedy is dull. Put aside a fixed portion of whatever comes in, decided in advance and not adjusted downwards in a bad month, and let the amount matter less than the fact that the portion is fixed. I am aware that this is the least stirring paragraph in the half hour. It is also the one that shows in the accounts inside a year, and none of the stirring ones do. Why you know all this and still do not move. Now I shall answer the objection you have been holding since the beginning, and it is a fair one, and it deserves the last piece of the file. You have heard lists before. You may even have agreed with one. You put it down and nothing changed, and by the end of the week you could not have named 3 of the items, and you concluded, reasonably, that knowing these things does not do the work. You are right, and here is why. A mind does not act because it has been informed. A mind acts because it has been raised, and there are only so many things that raise it. 10, by my count, and no more. Every man who has ever moved on a large scale was lifted by one or more of them, and every man who knows what to do and does not do it is short of all 10. I shall name them. Love, the desire for the continuation of oneself, which is the deepest of them, and the one that has moved more men than money ever did. A burning wish for fame, for power, or for money itself. Music, friendship, plainly given and plainly held. An alliance of 2 or more minds working in harmony toward one end. Suffering shared with others who are suffering the same thing. The deliberate repetition of a statement to oneself until the mind takes it as an instruction. Fear. And 2 more, which are narcotics and strong drink. 10. 8 of them build, and 2 of them destroy, and the 2 that destroy are on the list because they work. That is the whole trouble with them. A man does not reach for drink because it does nothing. He reaches for it because it lifts the mind, immediately, at a price payable later, and because the other 8 are slower. Now look at your own week. Which of the 8 are you keeping in operation? Not admiring. Operating. Is there one alliance in your life, one arrangement with another mind aimed at a definite end, that you would call harmonious? Is there music in your house, or only noise? Is there any statement you have repeated to yourself daily, in your own words, until it's settled? Is there a want in you hot enough to be called burning, or only a preference? For most men, the honest reckoning is that all 8 of the constructive ones are idle, 1 or both of the destructive ones are in nightly use, and fear is doing the whole of the work. That is why the list did not take. You did not lack the information. You lacked the pitch, and a mind at low pitch will agree with anything and act on nothing. 29 of the 30 belong to you. I said at the beginning that 30 was not the number, and that a second number in the file would end the argument. Here it is, 29. 29 of the 30 causes of failure carry no exemption. One does. Number 1, the inheritance a man did not choose, is marked as the only cause on the whole list, which cannot easily be corrected by the man himself, and even that one is given a bridge in the pooled minds of other men. Every remaining cause is a thing you are doing. Not a thing that was done to you, not a condition you were placed in, a practice, continued daily, that could be discontinued daily, waiting for the time to be right, choosing late from the remainder, spreading yourself across 6 aims, spending the whole of what arrives. Holding an opinion you no longer examine, being difficult to work with and calling it integrity, stopping at the 51st razor. That is the file, and that is why I promised to take your excuses rather than to answer them. I have not answered a single one. I have shown you that the thing you have been carrying as a private and unlucky circumstance is item 8, or item 16, or item 25, on a list drawn up before you were troubled by it, from several thousand men who each believed his own case was the exception. And I said this was good news, and now I will make it good. If your failure were caused by your circumstances, you would have to wait for your circumstances. You would be entitled to wait, and waiting would be wisdom, and there would be nothing to do tonight but hope. 29 out of 30 says otherwise. It says the material is in your hands, that it has been in your hands the whole time, and that the reason nothing has changed is not that you were unable, but that you were unaware, or unwilling, and one of those is cured by reading a list, and the other by standing in front of a mirror. So here is the work, and it is small, and it is to be done before you sleep. Take one cause, not the whole 30, because the whole 30 will defeat you and you will do nothing, which is item 8 again. 1. The one that made you uncomfortable while I was speaking, and you know which it was, because you argued with me about it in your own head, and I did not hear a word of it. Write it in one sentence. Not what caused it, what it is. Then write the smallest action that contradicts it, and do that action tomorrow, before noon, badly. That is all. One cause named, one action taken against it, tomorrow, at a poor standard. Do not resolve to do better. A resolution is item 8, wearing good clothes. The blank 31st line is still on the page, and it is still empty, and it will be empty in your hands as well. There has never been anything to write on it. There is only the list, and the 29, and the small dull action taken before noon, over and over, until the man in the glass is the friend, and not the other one. Give me the half hour, I said. You have given it. The excuses are on the table now, with names and numbers against them, and they are not yours anymore. They are entries. Take one. Begin.